Yes, good evening, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys, Dave and Jack. Look, we could sit here with fancy titles, Xavi Simons signing for Tottenham and Lookman signing for Tottenham, but the reality is we are just interested FC. So rather than sit here and wish for something to happen or hope for something to happen and sit here and hoping and wishing all the time, we'll actually deal with what's actually happening, and that is zero. But, as usual, there are rumors out there, so we will discuss them with the fans this evening. There was a list of 5 or 6 names put out there earlier on, likes of Xavi, Simons, Semenyo, Morgan, Rogers, Savinho, Lookman, Paqueta. We'll discuss some of them names. We'll also, yet to sign a replacement for Sonny or for the injury to James Maddison, which area is more important to sign in because with the window dwindling down, it's more than likely we're only going to get one signing. So which one would you prefer, the winger or the number 10? We're also going to have a massive debate around Paratici because we were having a debate just before we got in here, and that sort of kicked us off going live. We'll also talk about Luka Vuskovic move to Hamburg, and then also what do you make of Thomas's Frank to the season so far, and also look at the game the weekend ahead, and maybe also reflect on the result against Man City. But look, Jack, I kind of sort of took the intro off you. I didn't know whether you were going to do the speaking or not. So is there anything you want to say? My bad.
No, that great intro. It feels like Spurs are that person that is just interested in everything, but doesn't actually ever leave the house. So it's like someone that, sort of texts you like, hey man, like you want to go to the game tonight? You're like, yeah, I'd be interested. They don't end up ever hitting you back. And it's like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to do this thing this weekend. It's like, oh yeah, I'd be interested in that as well. It's like we're in a million different clubs, but we don't actually attend any, in terms of hobbies or anything like that. But we just stick at home the whole time. We are, like you said, registering an interest FC, but don't actually end up, applying any of those interests or actually going forth with any of those interests. So it's become, I can't wait for the transfer window to end, but at the same time, I do really, really hope and am clinging on to the belief that Spurs can at least deliver something by the end of this window. But it has been an absolute disaster. And at this point, I just want to be taken out of the misery, which is why we have these other people on to either confirm my worries and confirm my frustrations, or maybe give me something else to consider.
Look, the longer it goes on, Jack, the more my belief is dwindling. What are they going to get done in the next 7, 8, 9 days that they couldn't get done in the last 3 months? Like that's where I'm sort of at with it. It's getting to the point where you wake up in the morning, 4 players are ready to come to Tottenham Hotspur, and by the time you go to bed at night, it's all bullshit. Tottenham aren't interested, on this and that and the other, and they're absolutely quelled. And to be honest with you, it's actually the reason why I can't wait for the transfer window to be over this time around, because we actually start the season on fire, and no one's talking about the football the way we've started, the impact of Paulini and Kudos, stuff like that, because the transfer window and what we're not doing is overshadowing it. So for me, I can't wait for it to close just so we can get back to focusing on the football and how well we have actually started the season and how well we actually look. But of course, I'm not blind. I do know that when the games start coming in thick and fast, that's the true test of your squad. The true test of your squad is the players that come in. Can they keep the ball rolling? That hasn't been the case at Tottenham Hotspur in years gone by. It'd be interesting to see whether Frank's system can sort of keep that momentum. So it'd be interesting to see. Suppose that we won't waste any time. We'll be here for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how the conversation goes. If anyone does want to join and you are a fan, show membership or higher, simply go to the post section of the page on the YouTube. It will bring you to the link. Just click on the link, come in, and myself and Jack will bring you in and get you in as part of the conversation. If you want to sit back and you don't want to come in and air your thoughts, but you do want to put them in the comments, feel free to get them in and we'll put them to the people as we go along. This evening, joining us from the off, we've got Rhino making his return. We've also got Rain back here as well with us, along with my brother from another mother, Eugene, and also the one and only Dermatron from down in Wexford there, from my country as well. However, I am the number one Spurs fan in these parts. But look,
no, you're not. I am. I'm coming for your crown body, pal.
You can have it. You can have it. It's I've moved on. They're making a bigger one for me, so you can wear my small one. Anyway, let's move on. I mean, we were starting off with we were having a debate about Paratici in the back end. I mean, look, Jack, I'll let you kick this off, and then we'll go straight to Eugene, because you have one view of Paratici, and Eugene maybe has another.
Well, I mean, I'll reply back to Eugene, but the question I had written down for everybody that we'll get started off with is that rumors are that Paratici will be coming back in a lead role in the recruitment department with Spurs. if this is true, because it is only a rumor, it's not like it's been confirmed yet or anything by the club. But if this is true, is this a sign that Johan Lange has failed to earn Levy's trust and faith in that recruitment department? But, some people like Eugene here, which we'll go to first, maybe aren't as keen or as excited about Paratici maybe coming back and taking over things again. So Eugene, kind of a two-parter, your faith in Paratici, but also the fact that this is being rumored suggests that maybe Johan Lange has failed to earn Levy's trust.
I mean, maybe I'm just angry at the world, and I'm taking it out on everybody. Like, I've got smoke for everyone. But no, I mean, I've always been a fan of Paratici. And honestly, I'm glad he's coming back. My only thing is, I was arguing of how impactful he was. I think 1,000 years from now, when the aliens come to Earth and they're football fans, and they're gonna review all the records of all the transfers, they're gonna look at the Brian Hill transfer as one of the worst in the league history. He brought us Romero and and Bentancur and Klosevsky, but also Richarlison, also Emerson. My concern is that I'm not sure if he has any sources or contacts outside of Italy, because we've seen him doing most of his business in Italy. He's on the phone, he does this and that. I want him to prove to us that he has contacts everywhere. And again, the players that he's brought in are mostly from Italy, outside of Patasar maybe, but who was a youngster. So that's my only thing. I want him to come back. I definitely rate him more than Langa or Lang, whatever. But there's rumors that he's been unofficially in charge of this window. He's been consulting. And if that's the case, my faith in him is even lower than it was.
On that, what I would say, Eugene, is, with the ban for large parts of this summer, all he could do was consult. He can't actually get into the room and do the negotiations. And that's where I think you're seeing a massive difference. In years gone by, when we were linked with a player, with Paratici at the helm, we never missed. We got our target. It seems like with this guy, Johan Lang, we miss an awful lot more than what we actually get in. And I think that's the difference. With Paratici, he can negotiate. I think this summer, for large parts, he's had to sit on the back burner. He can't negotiate the deals. And I think that's where you're seeing them collapse.
But to push back on that a bit, Dave, we've gotten the deal done before where we weren't competing with other or bigger teams, right? Kulusevski and Bentancur, Juve didn't want them. Those were easy deals to get done.
Well, Romero
was the player of the year. Was it? I think our issue is where the bigger teams want the same players as we do, and we haggle too much and we take our time. So the issue is not when he was able to get players that bigger teams didn't want. The issue is now that we want bigger players like Esse, Gibbs White, Xavi, Simon. We cannot compete.
But a lot of the issue around the Eze and the Gibbs White one was how we conducted the business. You look at the Morgan Gibbs White one, the longer this goes on and the less Tottenham challenge it, the more I'm starting to think Tottenham did do something a bit nefarious or know they'd done something wrong.
Oh, sure.
When it comes to the Eze one, we had a clean run at that before the injury to Havertz. If we, Paratici could have wrapped that negotiations up a lot quicker, which means Arsenal wouldn't even had a chance to come in. And that's where our problems have lied around these big deals, on how we've negotiated and how we've trying to get them done. And I think that's where Paratici plays a massive part. And I think that's why Daniel Levy recognises that. And I think that's why he's re-signed him on the dotted line to come in here and take charge of that. Because before, it was sort of Paratici going in, negotiating a lot of deals. And Daniel Levy could take his hands off it because he trusted Paratici going in there and negotiating the deals. He trusted Paratici to get the best price for the club. With Paratici, even when the budgets were gone, he still got a loan with it to buy on the likes of Kulusevski, on the likes of Pedro Porro, players like that, even when the budget was swallowed up. And I just think there's two levels on how you operate. And with Paratici, I do think he is well respected in the game. I do think, he can get in the room with the right people to be able to get deals done. Whereas I think Johan Lang, to be honest with you, I don't think he's got a great contact list. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of failures in the last three windows. Last summer, a lot of it was young players supplemented with a Dominic Solanke. Last January, we need massive help. To Jack's point, a lot of the business was done towards the end of the window, even though we needed it done at the start of the window. When Paratici was here, people praise Tottenham for going early in the windows and getting players done. And when you
Poro
go
was
do
late,
that,
Dave, right? Poro was
when
very
you
late.
go do that, you don't leave them in the market for as long as we done, which means then you're not competing as much with these big clubs.
I mean, Pedro Porro was very late in the window, right? We were dragging it on forever. And again, my point is,
I'm not saying most deals, but you go
right.
back to Madison, Vicario, you know, a lot of them signings in nice and early. You know, we have acted early in some of these windows.
I
Under
don't
Paratici.
disagree.
Not all of them, but we have acted a lot earlier than what Johan Lang has done, or with a lot more urgency than what Johan Lang has done.
I don't disagree. I think you're spot on, and I agree with that. My only point is those players that we've gotten, or at least vast majority of them, bigger clubs weren't in for those players.
Yeah,
They weren't
I
in
hear
for Vicario, for anybody, right? So our issue is that when the bigger clubs are in for the players that we're interested in, not only we cannot compete, but we need to move faster than them, right? We need to be more
Right.
aggressive, and we're dragging our feet. So whether he can help with that or not, we'll see. All I'm saying is, based on the track record, I don't remember any big players who came to our club when we competed with bigger teams, right?
Fair.
That's all. That's my point.
Yeah,
I
just
felt
to-
like
yeah.
most of those deals were easy to get done because we were the biggest club going for those players at that time. So we'll see. I just want to see, but definitely I want him to come back. He's better than anything that we have right now. Plus, also if he can bring Gabbanini back, because that's a big, he was a big part as well. So I'm all for Paratici. I just push back a bit when people say he was amazing. He did some good things, but if we want to play on a different level, if we want to compete with Champions League teams with bigger clubs, he hasn't proven to me that he can work smarter and faster than those clubs. That's all.
Look,
Just a
I hear
quick
what you're saying.
retort, though,
Sorry.
on just a quick retort on Paratici on two things you said there. Like, you're saying he only buys from Italy. At the end of the day, Serie A is the second best league in the world at the minute. So it's not a bad league to depend on at the end of the day.
I agree.
And the other thing is that you're saying he only buys from Italy, but he did buy Pop Matasar. He did bring in through Van de Ven. He did buy Pedro Porro. Even the players that you think weren't good, which weren't good signings. Emerson came from La Liga. Brian Hill came from La Liga. Jed Spence came from England. So, like, I think that narrative is almost incorrect, really, because he did
Madison
buy
was
players from
brought
other
over the
leagues.
time as well.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem that we've got is it's hard to say, and it's a problem that we've got in this window. Paratici isn't involved. Is we want to say this person is doing this, and this person is doing that, and this person is to blame. We don't know any of this. That's why I try to always talk about the transfer team, because we don't specifically know who is doing what. But what we do know.
Well, I think we did under Paratici, though. That was the point.
Well,
though,
no,
right?
we didn't. Well, because I still think that the Porro dealing was done by Levy. I highly suspect that was done by Levy. And clearly everybody knows that the Richarlison deal that was done during Paratici's time, the actual deal itself was done by Levy. So we don't know about any of the other deals. That's the problem. And the problem is that we can't identify it. But what we can identify is that we had way more hits when Paratici was involved. Way more hits. Yeah, I've done a little count, and I reckon of the 23 players that were brought in whilst Paratici was notionally in charge, we had 15 hits. And that's a 65% hit ratio. It may not sound good, but compared to what it normally is, it's good.
I think when it comes to director of footballs and the hit and miss ratio, there's with a director of football, there's always going to be a list of misses. But the trick is to have a lot more misses or a lot more hits than what you do misses. Yes, you can pull out, a couple that maybe didn't work out, the likes of Gill, the likes of Emerson and stuff like that. But you go back to the nucleus of that team that won the Europa League. You go back to the nucleus of the team of players that people want to keep around here. A lot of them were brought in by Fabio Paratici. You look at Steve Hitchen, a lot of his contributions gone from the football club. And I have no doubt when this fraud Lang has moved on, I reckon a lot of his contributions will also be shipped on as well. The testament to Paratici is that a lot of what Frank's winning with right now, to start the season, has been put in place by Paratici, the foundations of it. And I think that's where I look at Paratici and go, when I look at what we've had before in Steve Hitchen and what we've brought in after with Lange, I think Paratici is the right guy. What he also doesn't get enough credit for is You know, the success that he's helped bring to the academy, you know, the players that we're producing, the young players that we're in the market for, taking players away from City's academies and stuff like that, that we traditionally didn't do. You know, a lot of the scouting models that they're working off was put in place by him. You know, he came in, he had held an assessment of the football club. He identified areas, you know, and he came out and told us in an interview, you know, that there's a lot that needs to be fixed behind the scenes for Tottenham Hotspur to transition from what we were into a well-run, massive organization. And Paratici, whether we like it or not, in my opinion, got Daniel Levy to listen to him. He brought in better quality players than what we're seeing. We took a punt on Gray. We took a punt on Bergvall. We took a punt on Tell. We took a punt on Odegaard. And between all them players, you're talking about 100 million. Now, I don't think Paratici would have spent 100 million like that. And for me, when I look at what's gone before and what's come after, I think Paratici is the right sweet spot to help us get to that point, and then maybe hand it over to someone else that can get in the big dogs, the real big signings. But in order for us to get to the point where we can get in a position to compete with the big clubs, I think Paratici is the right guy. And I'm glad we've brought him back, because he does seem to get Daniel Levy to be able to listen to the guy. And let's not forget, when we signed him, it was reported that Daniel Levy had a 10-year love affair or crush on this guy. You know how much of a great operator he was inside the game. And when Levy respects someone, I do think he listens to them. He's more willing to. Right now with Johan Lang, he's controlling him. He's got him on puppets. Do this, do that. With Paratici, Paratici is saying, yeah, Daniel, that's your idea, but this is my idea. And for instance, I use the academy again as an example. Tottenham were pumping money into these guys, built a great academy, you know, pumping money into their food, their training, everything else. But we're making no money off it. People wonder how Chelsea, City, everybody else are getting money to keep topping up their transfer kitty. Yes, they have nefarious ways, but no one talks about the rate they're selling. Players that come through their academy that ain't maybe going to make it, but the money they're making off it. And that's the difference. Paratici basically has got into Daniel Levy and says, you sell one of them, that covers your whole cost of the academy, let alone if you sell multiple and supplement your budgets and stuff like that. And that's the difference between someone like Paratici, Johan Lang, Steve Hitchin and that. And I think that's the added benefit to it.
But coming back to what Eugene was saying, coming back to Eugene's point, the problem that we've perpetually had for the last 20 years, right? And it goes all the way back to Sir Alex Ferguson. There's probably people in the chat who were not supporting football when Sir Alex Ferguson was a manager. It's that long ago, right? And Sir Alex Ferguson said that dealing with Tottenham Hotspur, and yes, he named a particular person, was worse than having his hip replacement done, right? And the one thing that we know that Paratici does, and other good DOFs have done on behalf of Tottenham Hotspur in the past, other DOFs like Arneson, like Comely, like Mitchell, what they've done very, very well is build good relationships with other clubs to bridge those negotiations and those transfers. Clearly, Paratici is very good at that. That's why he spends so long with his headphones in, right? Because he's talking to people and building relationships with them. That's not something that we currently have. We currently have nobody doing that. And I think, yes, Dave, I hear you about all of that stuff. We don't know whether that's going to be a success or not, or the academy stuff. I hope that Paratici will make it a success. One thing that I think it's undoubtable that Paratici does better than anybody we currently have is build those relationships with clubs so that we can get those deals done. We can get them done. We can have the 10 deals spinning, and then we can go, is this going to work? And know if it's going to work.
Well, that's another thing, Wayne. I don't think Paratici was predictable in the market to other clubs. With Johan Lang, we were told, ideally no one knows what we're doing, but when we're going in for a player, no one knows we don't have interest elsewhere, which makes it easy for them to come in and hijack us. With Paratici, we were told he's spinning plates left, right, and center. So, clubs don't actually know what target we're in, which actually sort of what the target we are negotiating with. It actually gives us a bit of wiggle room to be able to negotiate that deal and get the price that we're looking for without having that competition. Right now, it seems we're so easy to hijack in the market because with Paratici, you know, there's so many smoke screens. He put out so many feelers that clubs were trying to chase us around and everything else. Whereas really, everyone else is looking over here. We're over here getting the deal done under the radar, and everyone's sitting there going, well, how the fuck did you get that one done? You know what I mean? And that is the massive difference between how he operates and Johan Lang. Johan Lang is making us easy to be picked off in this market.
I think if you look through this whole transfer window, look, and I put something on Next the other day that this is my 45th year being a Spurs fan. And I've seen everything from the good, the bad, to the damn right ugly. I'm sure Rayman can remember as well as I can the times we nearly went out of business as a football club, down to a bad owner, down to an owner not looking after our interests. And we look at the plays we were getting in back then. Do you know where we're getting Archibald Crook? Do you know where we're getting a young Graham Roberts came from non-league? I think Bill
we're
Nick
in 2025 now.
No, there is a point here.
Okay.
But you go through all the history of Spurs from back then to now. Daniel Levy, what anyone says, Daniel Levy is so incompetent in doing his job. The business side of it is brilliant. The football side, he is wholly incomparable. He cannot do his job correctly. He cannot do the football side. He cannot do that correctly. Paratici was the one that was leading him. He said to Levy, this is my show. You leave this to me. You just concentrate on that side, and I'll do the rest. And where I would agree with Eugene and Rayman and what they said, and I think Eugene brings up many good points about Paratici. You look at a Paratici window compared to a Lang window, and you look at the amount of players that we bought in on the Paratici than we did on the Lang. No director of football has 100% hit rate. You're always going to get one or two different players that ain't going to work out. Brian Hill, Emerson, for example. Do you know? But you look at as Dave said, you look at the backbone of that team that won the Europa League. That was Paratici picked. Paratici bought, and we can say what we want about Paratici. But again, director of footballs that fail are getting away scot-free. Nobody talks about Steve Hitchen and the mess he made when he was the director of football. Nobody's talking about the mess Johan Lang's making us director of football. Everyone needs to be held accountable for their mistakes. Levy and Lang both need to, at the end of the window, need to hand in their resignation letters and leave our football club. Both of them have to step down because you cannot own or run a football club and not be held accountable for the mistakes your director of football has made. We had a whole week to get Eze in. And I know that for a fact. We were the only club to go into Eze. And I was repeatedly told, if Arsenal come back in, he will go to Arsenal. And what did we do? We haggled. We waited there. Palace said, we want him playing for the Charity Shield. Fine. We want him to play in the Thursday. Did he play Thursday when Arsenal came in? No. What we should have done was pay the release clause in July, job done, there and then. But we didn't because we wanted to save a few quid. We wanted to save 5 million here or 4 million here. Do you know? And then we expect, again, a manager to go into another season with 4 competitions we're into to show, right, there's your squad, go and compete. How are we going to compete? If we get 3 or 4 or 5 injuries, we're in the same place we were last season like we were under Ange, and it's going to be the same crack again 6 months down the line. Fans will be calling for Thomas Frank's head, the same as they were calling for Ange Postecoglou's head. And it's a reverberant circle. Something has to change. The only thing that would change is Daniel Levy leaving the football club.
Well,
he has to do it now before our football club falls even further behind.
Well, let me ask you then, Dermot, because, you know, there was a protest organised ahead of the Burnley game opening weekend of the season. You didn't agree with the protest then.
Yeah.
There is another one organised. There is another one organised for the Bournemouth game this weekend. Window's not going to be closed by then. Do you back the protest this weekend?
I know Rayman's gone to hide now. No, look, I stand by what I
I
said.
don't want there to be any upset.
No, I stand by what I said before the first game of the season. I stand by what I said then. I think what's changed my mind now is because of what's happened over the last couple of weeks since the Bournemouth game. And we still haven't got anyone in. I think,
can I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
I'll ask a quick question.
Yeah.
Okay. I got so much respect for you, dude. I understood where you. Do you understand where I was at that point?
Yeah, I do understand, but I think I was in a different place because of we thought we were getting the Eze deal. I think that was around before the Eze deal. He went to Arsenal, and I just thought it was counterproductive to do a protest the first game of the season.
Do you understand? Do you understand that from my perspective, doing a protest made Eze more likely?
Doing a protest, I don't know how many.
Do you understand that from my perspective?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
having that protest at the Burnley game made Eze more likely, and everyone was saying, "Don't do it. Wait until it happens or doesn't happen." And I'm like, no. Prevention is better than cure, right?
Yeah, I think
I'm sitting here with a half smug, half absolutely off look on my face.
I think the protests have to be organized slightly better. I think the protests have to be that everyone goes. You know, I will say for change for Tottenham, fair play to them for doing it. Understand it. I think only 20 people turned up.
I was one of them.
Yeah, but no, I'm not slagging them off. I'm about to say, but that's 20 people more than if there wasn't one. But they need to make it in the fact that Daniel Levy takes notice of these. So that means not 1,000's turning up. They need 10 or 20 or 30,000 turning up. They need to get more behind them. And the problem is...
They will if the window keeps going like this.
Yeah, but the problem is we've never... See, you got the Newcastle thing. I saw this on YouTube the other week. When Newcastle was sold, they were sold for 300 million when the Saudis bought it from Mike Ashley. This is the first football club that's up for sale for 3.4 billion. Nobody in the history of football has had a club bigger with the same, selling price for that. So people at that level are not going to take any notice of protests. We can protest all we want, but we've got to do it within the stadium. We've got to not turn up. If you've got a season ticket, I'm not asking you to give up your season ticket. Don't turn up. It's all right asking fans like myself or Dave or Jack that go over once or twice a year. No, hang on. I'm just making... I think the fans that go every week have a better chance. I'm not going. Just stay the stadium empty. If Daniel Levy sees empty seats around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, right, is that going to make a better impact on him than people marching down the high street where he may take notice or he may not? Is there a better strategy for you to make him understand how you feel? Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to slag you off. I'm not trying to diminish what you're doing.
You're talking directly to me right now.
Yeah.
To me. And I will respond to you as somebody, because you're talking directly to me. So
yeah.
So when you're finished, I've got something to say.
Yeah. So
then after that, I am conscious we do need to get Rhino and Eugene back in as well.
And also because I'm going to the Man United game. Could there be an organisation that the both sets of supporters, they want their owners out as well? There could be a joint protest that both fans get together, fan protests get together and do a joint protest.
What's that
for that game?
That's ridiculous. What's that going to do?
Well, is it? Is it ridiculous?
What we're going to protest? Whatever his name is.
It's all about.
What's that
look,
going to do?
Dave, it's all
he doesn't
about.
Listen to Tottenham fans. He's not going to listen to United.
No,
fans.
I'm not. You picked me up wrong, Dave. You just jumped in and picked me up wrong. It's all about the fans taking the power back from these people that own our football clubs. Football is fans based. Football is the fans. If there's no fans, there'll be no football. It's time the fans took the power back from these owners and take our clubs back. So it's a bigger thing.
Well,
so
you need an ownership at this point, to be able to, especially with the money you're talking about in the Premier. You need owners. It's about having the right owners. But honestly, I just think that the idea of a joint sort of protest. Yes, when it comes to a Super League and they're trying to take the game away from us and stuff like that, yes, but I don't see the point of joining ship and protesting each other's ownerships. It's just like, that's sort of like, let's all have a group hug and sing Kumbaya. I don't get it. Anyway, we'll give Rain the right to reply, and then I do want to get Rhino and Eugene in, and we do want to talk, even though I don't feel like it's going to happen, we will talk about some of the rumors that are out there in terms of the transfer market.
So obviously I'm a season ticket holder. You're talking directly to me, not only as a season ticket holder, but as somebody who's gone to the protests, including one of the 20 during the Burnley game. And
I'm not having a go at you for that, by the way. I'm big up to you for that.
Yeah, okay. And I think I've been quite clear and quite I think I've articulated my reasons. And I'm not anti-Levy. I'll be very clear. I'm neither anti-Levy nor anti-Unic, right? I think I've been quite clear why I protest, what I want to see change and what I want to see different. Now, this call, and I see it from other people, season ticket holders just shouldn't go. I have yet to see one season ticket holder say, I have a season ticket and I'm not going to go to my seat as a protest. Because do you know what? I spend a lot of money and a lot of commitment to go and support my club. Why do I do that? Because I love it, right? And what you're actually asking me to do is to stop supporting my club.
No, I'm not saying that.
Wait a minute. In the way that I want to support it. That's what you're asking. You're not making the sacrifice yourself. You're asking other people to make the sacrifice on your behalf. And I'm sorry, but anybody who does that, that's wrong. Okay? It's fine for you to say, and anybody else, Dermot, to say this is the sacrifice that I'm going to make to get an outcome that I think we should get. But it's not okay for them to say other people, like myself, should make sacrifices to get the outcome that I maybe we want. I will make the sacrifices that I want to make to get a change at Tottenham Hotspur, and I don't think it's right that other people should be telling me what sacrifices I should make.
I mean, my sacrifices, I don't buy anything from Spurs. I buy all my tops elsewhere. I do try to make my sacrifices as much as I can. I am an overseas fan, so it's difficult for me to get to every game if I could or would. I try to, do what I can. I try to speak a lot on my channel. I try to, say how I feel. So I tried to do my bit. I wasn't telling you not to go. It was just up one game. I don't know. I don't know what Ryan feels to bring Ryan in. I don't know what Ryan feels about it either. What would you do, Ryan? Because I'm very conscious you haven't spoken yet.
Well, look, I remember when I had a season ticket when I was at Wembley, when we was at Wembley the year that we beat Arsenal 1-0, the first full season we moved into Wembley, and I didn't want Levy in at that time. I was Levy out, and I refused to go to over half the games. I just said, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But obviously now it's a bit difficult because people, and what I don't seem to understand with some people, not everyone, like with that, when I saw that guy said that if you don't protest, don't moan. Well, it's not really that. That might be your opinion, but most of the people that can't actually get to protest, like AKA Dermo, Davo, and Jacko, right? They can't get to protests because they're not. They haven't got the money to. And I now where I live, right? I can't get to protests because I don't live in England anymore. So I find that a little bit upsetting when people say stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think that's the right narrative to take. We all have our own way of protesting. Some of us can't protest in exactly the same way as all right, yeah, people can say, oh, well, you live in Scotland, well, you should be able to make it. How do you know what my financial situation is? No one knows that, and I don't ever announce how much I earn. And so you can't go around turning on people like that, saying that we can't moan just because we don't protest. Now, with Paratici, I'm on the fence that he's the best DOF I think we've ever had. Do I think that it's he's the worst that we've ever had? Not by a chalk mold or whatever, however you call it. But I love Paratici. When he comes back, we will see everything getting done a lot quicker. And I agree with whoever said on this panel said that if we had Paratici in when for the Eze deal, we would have got it done quicker. Yeah, we would have got it done quicker. We would have got it done literally 2 days after we'd been linked with him. And I believe that 100%. And I believe that where Eugene says, well, it's he only shops in the Italian market. No, he doesn't. Right? And anyway, even if he was, look how poor their finances are out there. They've got poor finances out there, Eugene. Right? We could you get bargains out there, especially when it comes to the big Italian teams. Like, I don't get why people think that shipping in the Italian market is actually a bad thing.
I think it was a narrative put out by, and I'm not saying Eugene is using this narrative. Of course, Eugene is a free thinker. I know that, he sort of thinks for himself. But, I think it was a narrative put out there by people that weren't having Paratici at the time, that all he knows how to do is operate in the Italian market. But to Jack's point, he's proven that's not just the case. And I think, look, regardless whether we like it or not, Paratici will be back in for the January transfer window. Hopefully, we're not going to be in as drastic need as we were last January, and hopefully he can bring in some signings to be able to help maybe push us on if we can sustain where we're at now up until January. But look, let's move on from the Paratici saga.
But no, can I just say one more thing on this?
And then I just want to take comments after you, Rhino, because there's a lot of comments, and I want to be fair to the people viewing at home. Get them in, and then we'll push on with some of the transfer news. Go on, Rhino.
Now, look. Right, I don't think just quickly with the Paratici. Even though he'll be in by January, I don't think we'll see the full effects of it until next summer. Personally, that's what I think.
Probably. It's usually how it works. Yeah. Ian Ferguson saying Paratici will be the signing of the window. That's probably a good place to transition this conversation towards is actually what will be the signing of this window. Some would
actually argue Frank was the signing of the window so far, but look, we'll keep it moving. We got a few comments that I do want to get to, just to be fair to people at home, and then we will get you guys back in. I know you're eager right now at Tottenham, but big up Ian Ferguson. It's great to see you, lad, and hopefully you are keeping well, my man. You may come back and have a conversation with us sometime soon. And we've also got Chris Spurs. I believe this is Chris from Newcastle. He says, we tried FC at its best. Let's not sugarcoat things. We have the funds to pay fees, but Levy will not pull the trigger. Nothing new. Look, I think regardless of what side you sit, or the fence you sit on with Daniel Levy, I think, it's fair to say that this window hasn't exactly gone according to plan. We haven't exactly backed Thomas Frank as best as we could have, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on. And I think that's the biggest disappointment, especially with how well Frank has started. He got us into a game competing with PSG where we were so close to winning another trophy. No one thought we would even go there and compete. We're after beating Man City 2-0 away from home, and arguably it's the best performance I've ever seen at the Etihad, bar maybe the one where we slapped them up 4-0 last year. We started off well against a relegated team, put 3 goals by them. I think there's a massive positive start. My big fear is when the games come in midweek, Champions League, Cup games, stuff like that, you are rotating the squad. That's where the problems come in, and that's where we just need a bit more strength in depth so we can cope with them games. That's why the big teams win, because they have the squads to be able to cope. Big up, Chris. Good to see you. We have Tottenham Trev. If the fans don't vote with their feet and carry on paying high prices for the crap transfer windows, I was a season ticket holder and I've sacrificed mine in 2019. Fans like you are the problem. Look, what I would say is I think getting into fans like you are the problem is a big mistake. I think it stops people from getting down to the protest. I think it actually stops people from even trying to hear the message. I think, at the end of the day, we don't need to put our dicks on the table and measure them. Mine's bigger than yours. At the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own way of doing it. But I would hope that everyone who has their own way of maybe, their own little protest, when the protests are actually organized, to try and get down. And I know that's a bit rich coming from me, but at the end of the day, I live in Ireland. I can't keep getting over. I don't have the funds to keep flying over for protests. I get in one game a year if I'm lucky. So, what I would say is if there is and you can get over there, please get down and support the protest. And we have C4ZAD EUK. Keep up the civilized debate and discussion. Nice to see it's returning. Appreciate that. We do try and encourage that a lot here. We try and encourage to listen to each other. Future's bright. Future's lily white. Are people stupid? Protests don't work. However, not buying merchandise, drinks, and food at the stadium will lose money. Always hurts. Hear what you're saying, but I would argue, no, I think, look, unless it's like thousands upon thousands, it's hard to make an impact. But what I will say is people say protests don't work. Well, it stopped them pulling the Super League, didn't it, when fans went out en masse? So I would argue there are cases where it does work, but you do need the right momentum behind it. Dave Torrance says people will always go to the stadium as there are desperate fans to watch a game live. I struggle to get tickets myself. That's a fair point. Chen Mehmet, hey, don't care if you protest. If 5 minutes later going to buy a ticket, then go to the ground. If you want to make an impact on Levy, then hit him where it hurts, his pocket. Neil Perry says the problem with Levy is that he's burned every chairman, so they all hate him. He's haggled every deal, so needs to be involved in transfers. Big up, Archer. Good to see you, buddy. Paddy, I hope you really enjoyed your summer. Paddy Power summed it up best with their comments about Levy's behaviour since winning the Europa League. Absolutely spot on. Skunkswork says Dermot is spot on. Hitting where it hurts, money and bad publicity. Nomad says protest during the NFL games. Davey Torn also says the protest will go crazy after the Bournemouth game. The watching fans at the stadium will then realise there is going to be no signings. And then Cowboy Spurs says Spurs talk show poll day before collapse 70-30 Levy in, day after 70-30 Levy out, Fickle FC. And look, honestly, that's the thing. But like, we could sit here and call it fickle, but that's the way football is in general. If things are going well, people just enjoy what's on display. When things aren't going well is when people kick up. It's the same in life. If everyone's happy and getting what they need out of life, there's no protest. When people are unhappy and, things become tough, that's when people start protesting. It's just the nature of life. At the end of the day, we support a fickle sport at the end of the day. But look, Jack, over to you. Let's move it on. What are we moving on to, my man?
I thought we'd just move it on to kind of what Chris is talking about in terms of the transfers.
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
Scotspur. It's a very nice comment. Can I just shout out, Jack, here? You are a phenomenal host every time, and your skills are definitely not unnoticed. You make it look easy, my guy. Now, Jack, I think first question is, how much have you slipped Scotspur? But Scotspur, very nice comment, my man.
Yeah, that's.
Or is this Jack's phone?
Do you take Venmo? Do you take PayPal, Scott? Let me know. But I haven't done any hosting today. It's been mostly Dave. To be fair, thank you, Scott.
Accounts, please. Check for all accounts.
Yeah,
Sure.
Cash App also works as well. I can pay you in a variety of ways, Scott. But we're going to talk about, at some point, just people's optimism about whether Spurs actually will be busy towards the end of this transfer window. There's still a lot of players that we've been linked with. Interested FC has been kind of the theme of today. Xavi Simons, Semenyo, Morgan Rogers, Savino, Adamala Lukman, Lucas Paqueta, just to name many, not even a few, many. But we've been linked with all of them. It's just nothing has ever really seemed to get any legs at any point. In fact, most of the time, it just seems like we end up seeing the rumor of interest, but then all of a sudden, some other journalist comes out and says Spurs are only, just monitoring the situation or whatever buzzwords they like to use. So we'll go to someone maybe who hasn't spoken in a little bit, maybe go to Eugene and then to bring in Jerome and then back to Rain Man. We'll probably talk about anyone's actual optimism.
I've just got to pop off. So enjoy the rest of your stream, guys, because I've got me on stream to get to. Enjoy the rest of Jerome. Nice to see you. Enjoy the rest of your stream. And I'll promise I'll stay on longer next time.
Yeah,
sorry.
Big up, Darmo. See you soon, buddy. We'll put your link in the chat for you. Off your pop.
All right.
See you later.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Eugene, I feel like I usually know where you're coming from, but do you think will we sign someone, a number 10, a left winger before the end of the window?
I was so optimistic And last week was probably my lowest point as a Spurs
Yeah.
fan, and that's why I'm so down right now. Even the City game, instead of being positive and happy, it just made me angrier. And the reason is I can see what Frank can do with the squad if we give him some players. And that's why I was angry. I was like, look, he can be a great manager for us. And I raised my hand. I doubted him in the beginning, but now I can see he could be the guy. But, and that's why I was so angry. I was like, our squad is so thin, one injury in 4 or 5 positions, and we're back to where we were last season. And our squad is injury prone. And so that's why I'm so down, because I can see what we can be and where we are right now. As far as the transfers, it's also frustrating is okay, we don't get Gibbs White, we don't get Eze, but we should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. There's so many other targets that all of us discussed ad nauseum, right? Like all of us know, whether it's Lookman, where like Paquette, like there are a lot of targets. So, and now we're in the position where we have to massively overpay for whoever we bring in, right? Because we're leaving it until the very last moment. So I want to be optimistic, but just based on our track record right now, we're going for players also like Xavi Simons. He only wants Chelsea. So the way we do business, I just don't see it happening, right? Lookman could come in and it'd be cool. That's a good signing. But I'm not optimistic. I feel like we're going to bring in one player who we overpay for. But in my opinion, we need at least 3, if not 4. Just because in the PSG game, you saw what happened when our subs came in, right? The drop off between Polini and Archie Gray is enormous. The drop off from Kudus to whoever else, right, to Johnson on the right or Tell is enormous. And playing 2 games a week and being in Champions League, it's not sustainable. Especially we know that Van der Ven and Romero will miss games. Richarlison will miss games. We have no number 10. So I'm just so like annoyed and angry, just given we're 3 good players and we could actually challenge for trophies. I'm not saying Champions League and the league, but other like domestic trophies are not out of the question. So to your question, do I see somebody coming in? Maybe one player, right? Maybe Lookman is going to come in, or at number 10, but it's just not enough for us. Given
Is one more important than the other if you had to pick between number 10 or left wing?
I think I'm more concerned about someone of quality, right? A quality 10 is better than an average left winger, right? But if you look now, there are not many number 10s available as is. I'm sure, like, I don't want to see another 18 or 19-year-old from Kazakhstan, right? I want to see a proven player. Xavi Simons would be great, but I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Lookman is a deal that we can do. We could have done it a month ago, right? Just go pay the money and bring him in. Is Lookman the player that we need? Is he the answer? Maybe, maybe not. But we need reinforcements. For me, Sar does great at the 10, or at least he's done great so far. But I feel like we can use him against the bigger teams who are more open, but against teams where, who set up a low block, we need a number 10 like Madison who can actually, and we don't have anybody who can pass the ball like that, who can unlock low blocks. So for me, number 10 is critical. We need somebody. And the left winger is critical. We just need those 2. I don't know which one is more important, but
I don't think we should be in this situation, though. I think we should expect the club to do both. They've had long enough to do
I agree. That's why I'm so angry.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
And I think, if we want to be a real competitive team and have the answers to many different situations that we're going to face this year, you go and get both done. However, to honor Jack's question, and in the spirit of, Jack's question, I think I'm going to disagree with Eugene a little bit. For me, look, you're not going to get away with Papa Matasar, just turning ball over up high all season long. You are going to need that number 10. However, I would argue, I think another creative winger, similar to Kudus or you know, a similar type, I think is more important, because if you don't have that number 10, you can then circumvent it and just go down either side and put balls in the box and still get goals out of your striker. Whereas if you limit yourself to just attacking down the middle on one side, it basically allows the opposition to largely set up from the middle to the right-hand side out, block up that side, and actually allows them to defend you a lot easier. Whereas if you can go down both sides, that means they do have to keep the pitch stretched, which I would argue, if we do break through the middle, or, you know, if we don't have that number 10, I would argue Bentancur is good enough to find them passes. Papamatta Sarr, I think, doesn't get enough credit. I think he is capable of finding them passes. The guy's been involved in nearly every goal this season, you know, that we've scored, plus preseason. I think people are doing him a bit of a disservice. But for me, I think it's utmost important that you go and get another quality winger, so that you have balls coming in from either side and keep feeding that striker. Because even if you don't have that number 10, you still can feed that striker.
Yeah, no, Dave, I do not disagree. All I want is another outlet other than Kudus, because you've seen, like, in those games, when Kudus is out, we have no outlet. So whether it's on the left-hand side or a 10, we need somebody who can, you know, get the ball, hold it up, and be a threat. Right now, the way we've been playing, Kudus is our only outlet. When he doesn't play or if he gets hurt, then we're in trouble. So whether it's a 10 or on the left, I'm good either way. We just need a quality player in that position.
Yeah. And that's the key thing. It's got to be a player ready to come in and make an impact. Potential brought us so far last year. We showed a lot of fight, a lot of spirit, but it wasn't good enough to get points on the board. We need players ready to produce, and that's the most important thing. Look, we'll bring Jerome in, let him kick off what he has to say, and then we'll pivot back to Rain and Rainer.
Yeah. Look, I don't get why, Eugene. Why do you need to be angry? There's no point of getting angry.
I can't control it, unfortunately.
Look, the thing is, it's Groundhog Day, Eugene. We always feel the same way every goddamn season with Tottenham. Every goddamn season. I told you guys, the way we spend so much time wasting our time on the first week of the start of the transfer window with Frank, getting Frank in, wasted our time there. And then again, I told you, we're going to waste more time. And then come the last few days, we're going to go and rush things and going to buy, don't know, mediocre, average players. And then we're going to pay like big sum of money. And we're going to go, yep,
Jerome,
was that great? Yeah.
On that, Jerome, would you rather us, if we don't get the right quality now, hold back this window and wait for next January? Or are you of the opinion, look, our targets are gone, but we still need to get bodies in, so we might have to pivot and we might have to accept it and be okay with it?
We desperately need a number 10. We need a number 10. Whether we like it or not, we need a number 10.
Will anyone
desperately need it. Right now, no. I don't see anyone that would fit in, because all our targets that we needed, they're all gone. Who are we going to get as a proper number 10? Creative.
Rodgers or Paqueta, they're still sort of being floated out.
Definitely Morgan Rogers. There's no way we're getting Morgan Rogers. Are we going to pay £100 million for Morgan Rogers? Are we going to do this? I don't think so. I don't think Villa would even let him go. So unless we like maybe Paqueta. Well, Paqueta is not really number 10 though. So I don't know. I don't even think West Ham is going to even do business with us. So,
West Ham fans are going to riot if they sell Paqueta to us. And they get
if they sell Paqueta with us, they riot. Yeah, we're already in trouble, already as we are. They're not going to do business with us. So
it would be kind of fun, though. We'd be lighting the match, you know, in a sense.
I know.
For that fire to start at West Ham.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome to do this again. Like, do that to them again, getting Kudus, and then after that, get Paqueta. That'd be great. But in a serious thing, we desperately need a number 10, but we won't find it. All the target we needed, they all gone. Wasted so much time on all of them. And then, again, get embarrassed both times. Both times. Marinakis embarrassed us. Arsenal come in, embarrassed us again. So, seriously, what is the point? What is the point of us? We keep wasting every single window, wasting time over and over and over again. And when it comes to the last few days, we go on panic mode. Seriously, this club keeps failing every single time. And Frank just proved the game against City, the game against PSG, and the game against Burnley. just prove to us that he's capable. If you give him proper players, he's capable of doing something special. He's capable. That Man City game, I usually panics when I see this game. My heart pumped because the way Man City plays against us, it's like, even though we beat them 4-0 last time, that game was still intense. This game looked easy. Easy. They were so organized in this game that it looked easy to beat City. Now, we can't even provide this man proper quality players. All his target that he wanted, everyone's gone. So what's the point? What is the point? Every single time it's the same. We get a good manager that comes in, starts all right, but we fail him in the transfer window. We get him like 1 or 2 players and that's it. And then we'll be going, oh, we tried. We tried FC. This is what we are. Tried FC. While others are getting 6 to 7 players, we get 2. There's no point. There's no point of getting angry. I got used to it now. I know what's going to happen. What is the point? So unless we get to number 10, if we don't, forget about it. Go back in January. Leave it now. Go in January. There's nothing else we can do now. Because I'd rather they don't go and just go panic mode and just buy us some players at a ridiculous amount of money. And then, that's it.
What would we'll bring you in on this, Rain and Rhino as well, but what would you say to Phil Coyce? Because I think it's a fair point he raised. And by the way, Phil, good to see you. How are you keeping, my man? It'd be nice to speak to you again sometime. He says, hang on, we have tried for very quality signings. This window isn't for the wanting trying.
Yeah, I've been following Phil Coyce around for the last couple of days around various streams, so I've seen him commenting around. And
do you think it's a fair comment to make?
I think
we're in for Morgan Gibbs.
Going back to the original question. When Liverpool sold Coutinho and they wanted to get Virgil van Dijk in, and Southampton made it difficult, and do you know what they did that summer? They didn't get a centre-back. They waited to get the right player. Earlier in the stream, I said, what was it? I reckon Paratici had about 65% hit rate. I think it's a little bit optimistic, to be honest. I think it's a little bit on the generous.
You're happy clapping.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit on the generous. I definitely think there's a few that, like Basuma, I definitely included on the hit. And he could easily be a miss, arguably. But a good club has the best players that it possibly can get on the pitch, right? And ultimately that comes from having a good hit rate on getting players in. Because what fans seem to forget is you can't have 40 first-team players at a club. You can, at max, you can have 25. Yeah, but realistically, you can have something like 20. So we always talk about signing players, but everybody's forgotten that right at the start of the window, whilst everyone was going, who are we going to get in? I went, no. The most important thing right now is who are we going to tell them and get out of our club? Who are we going to get out to clear out space? Because that's absolutely vital. We need a better hit rate. So right here, right now, if we can't get the right player for the position that we need to fill, as Jerome said, number 10 clearly is a position that needs to be supplemented, then we shouldn't get them. We shouldn't get them. We should wait for the right player. Because when you buy a player, it's not just for Christmas, right? It's not just for Christmas. It's for 5 to 6 years. Yeah. You buy them for a long time. Just look at Basuma. You can't get rid of. Look at David, second longest player of the club, Hill. Right? When you buy a player, right, they're there for a long time. That's why the Palhinha deal is fantastic, because we've got an old, experienced player in for a year. Yeah. We might be able to buy him, but I don't really care. What I care about is that for this season, we've got an absolutely great 6. If we can get Paqueta, I'd love it. If we can get Paqueta, I'd love it. I love the guy. I think he's a fantastic player. Premier League proven. He's done it in the Premier League. He's absolutely brilliant for his ban. I think he'd come to us. He clearly wants to have a clean slate. Whether a chat with Frank before he signs clears that slate and makes it clear that that's what he wants to do, then fine. But if we're then going down to the second or third tier on our list, just we should be playing Donnelly, right, and postponing the decision until January or next summer, when we can get a grade A player in for the next 3 to 4 years. That's where I stand. On Phil's point, at the very start of the stream, there was a little bit of discussion about Paratici. The whole point, the one thing that we loved about Paratici is that he wouldn't have just had Morgan Gibbs-White on in negotiations. He would have had Morgan Gibbs-White, Simmons, Eze. He would have had them all negotiating at the same time. And when it was clear that one wasn't going to happen, he would have moved on to the next one straight away, next one straight away, next one straight away. This, I'm really, really trying to get Morgan Gibbs-White. And then 40 days later, we go in for our next player, is not ambition, mate. I'm sorry, it's incompetence. If I was contracting for some work, okay, and I went to Oracle and tried to do a deal with them, and they were just wanted too much, and then I waited 2 months, 2 months to go to another consultancy, ain't gonna wash. Sorry.
Fair. Well, look, I think Phil raises a good point in terms of, look, we've tried, but I mean, to Rain's point, I do feel like
it's not about trying.
And
it's not about trying. Trying is fine. We try all the time. Every season we try. Look, the Eze, we've been trying for a week. We tried for Eze. Yes, we tried. Arsenal tried for 3 hours or 8 hours or something, and we got their men. What's the difference? We tried. Yeah, we tried. But there's a difference of trying and getting your men. I'm sick of hearing we tried. It's not we tried. We need to get what we want. We were supposed to say that club is supposed to be changed. It's supposed to be the changing point for that club after winning the Europa League, right? Did we win the Europa League? Yeah. Because it looks like Manchester United won the Europa League because the way they went and get 3 forwards straight away.
It feels like we're also a club that's bigger than trying, like we shouldn't really hold ourselves to that standard. Maybe if we were like some La Liga team, like a Villarreal or something like that, trying to push for a really big player, you would sort of kind of give that excuse. It's like, well, at least we tried, to get ourselves in the market. Like Spurs, like you're saying, have won the Europa League, are about to be in the Champions League, are supposed to be challenging for the top 6, have the best stadium in Europe. Like there really shouldn't be this we tried mentality. It really should just be you get the deals done. Like there isn't, any sympathy really for trying, to be honest.
That's the thing, right? As I said in the beginning, right now, this window, we're trying to play with the big boys. We're going for players who the big clubs want, and that's our issue. We cannot compete with them. So whether it's Paratici or somewhere else, I agree, Rainman, like he spins a lot of plates. He has all these deals he's working on, but those would be lower, type of players. Again, good players, but not the levels of Eze, Rodrigo. So when we try to be ambitious and get those players, we just don't have the reputation. We don't have the pull. So that's why in Eze's case, when there's a slimmer, when there's a window, a tiny window of opportunity, you have to pounce on it. Because otherwise, all things being equal, those players are not going to come to us if they can go to Arsenal or United.
But we've been talking about Savinho.
Yeah, so
Savinho has been there for like I don't know how many weeks now. We've been talking about Savinho. We're putting bids. Like nothing's happening. If you're serious, you ask the asking price. If you want 80 million euros, you go and put 80 million euros. You can spend 60 million on one player, another 60 million on another player. Why don't you give them the 80 million euros and tell them take it or leave it? That's simple.
We can measure it in months now.
This is ridiculous. Every single time, all I'm hearing is Savinho deal is happening, but it's very hard. Man City are blocking this. Man City are doing this. Just give them what they're asking for. If you're asking for 80 million euros, you give them the 80 million euros.
But Jerome, City's all different, right? With City, like we cannot bully City. If they don't want to sell the player, they're not going to sell him. But there's no excuse for us not
It
to go
doesn't matter. If you want a
their
player, you go and you tell them. Like Man City said, all of their players are up for sale. It doesn't matter if they want to leave; they are free to leave as long as they go for the correct price. And if it's 80 million for Savinho, 80 million euros for Savinho, you give them the 80 million and you say, "I'm taking that player." And if he wants to, and that player wants to come to us, he's interested, he wants to come. Man City will go, you paid us, okay, you want to go, you go. And that's how big cup goes.
I'm all for a bit of negotiating. There is you're talking millions of pounds. There is going to have to be negotiations that take place. But for me, it's like we're willing to drop 30 million on Udebur, willing to drop 40 million on Gray, but we're not willing to push the ball out and act very decisively when the big player comes on the market. To Phil's point, we tried. Yeah, and maybe we were gazumped, by the likes of Arsenal and stuff like that. But the reality is we left it open so long for Arsenal to get the injury and operate and gazump us. If we would have acted in a decisive manner and not let it go on that weekend, they had a full run at it the week before that game. If they would have got it done nice and early, it would have been him walking out the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that day, as an unveiling rather than walking out the Emirates. And that's where the problem comes in. When you're Tottenham Hotspur and you're pissing about trying to structure a deal in your terms for a player of that quality, you're not exactly sending a message. We want you no matter the cost, which is what a player wants at the end of the day. They want to feel loved and they want to feel like that the team is going to be built around them. And you can sort of do that by going in and getting negotiations done swiftly and saying, let's get you in here. Another part of it is also the wage structure. We don't want to break the 200k a week, which is also a massive barrier to getting these guys over the line. When you're competing with the likes of Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, they can offer double what we're offering. And it's not like we can't offer it. We can. We just don't want to break the wage structure that Daniel Levy has in place. So it's sort of like the rules and the way they go about it is what's actually hindering us getting these sort of signings over the line, I would argue. Phil Coys, let me know your thoughts on that one.
The funny thing is,
We'll let Eugene in there quickly. He's one day.
Just quickly, last minute. The symbol of our whole window and what we are as a club is us spending 40 million on Tel and haggling over Eze for a couple of million. That describes us as a club. There's no plan. We don't have any common, like we spend all this money on Tel and then now we're going for Savinho again to play on the left-hand side. What was the point of getting Tel or Odebert, right? Like it just makes no sense. We're spending this transfer, those fees on young players, on average players. But then when we have a chance to get an elite player that we need, we haggle over payment terms or payment structure, a couple of million. That's what we are as a club. And to me, that's just infuriating. It makes no sense. What are we doing? And again, I don't think it's about Paratici or Lang. I think it's a bigger thing. It's just who we are as a club. Whoever makes those decisions.
With the Eze deal, just to let you guys know, in terms of wages, we were offering more wages than Arsenal. We were offering more wages than Arsenal in terms of the Eze deal. But still, they still picked us to waste because, again, we wasted our time letting Palace driving us around, telling he's going to play for this game, he's going to play for that game, wasted so much time on this until they can find a replacement. Arsenal come in, we're taking our player, is not going to play for the Europa League game, and here we go. Eze didn't play. Absolutely ridiculous.
And people saying that
get played around all the time.
That's not true. He did want to come before the transfer. When you talk to a player before you talk to a club, right? So we wouldn't be talking to Palace if, as I said, he wasn't coming. The payment terms were agreed, as they would come if Arsenal wouldn't come in. So saying that he wanted Arsenal, yes, he did. But when Arsenal wasn't coming in, he agreed to come to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking to Palace. So I think that narrative is false.
Anyway, let's not
quiet.
get bogged down on the Eze deal because it's been and gone now. And the more we speak about it, the more it actually hurts me, because he was a player that, same with Morgan Gibbs-White, 2 players that I've been on to Jack about, for a while now. Me and Jack constantly spoke about behind the scenes, and we thought, oh my God. And then Mohamed Kudus on top, along with Palini, you're just sitting there. You're like, fuck me, what? Someone wake me up from my dream. And my missus did wake me up, unfortunately. It was a dream. But look, let's move on. There's plenty to talk about. Let's talk about Luka Vuckovic's low move to Hamburg. I mean, guys, do you think we're making the right decision here? Or do you think, we're shocked after the impact he had in that game against Reading? Should we be keeping him around and taking a look at him? Can he offer something to us this season? I'd argue.
No.
I would argue. I think he could
Yeah,
have
no, I'll keep him. I'll
No.
keep him.
No.
Go on, Rhino.
And the reason why is because I've said this so many times, and I've said this to Paul as well, who's also on my channel. I've said to him, like, if we're going to get rid of Mikey Moore on loan, we have to get rid of Vuskovic on loan. And
Why?
it had, because I wanted to keep Moore, right? And the problem is, right, Moore would have done, probably will do more, would have done more under Frank than most of the other players. But I think it's the right move for Vuskovic to be sold. But also, I didn't get.
No, he's not being sold. He's being loaned. Not sold, loaned. He's not being sold. He's being loaned. Just straight out loan.
Yeah. But obviously, with that, I just think it's going to be the right move, because if you're going to put Moore out on loan, you've got to do the same for Vuskovic.
But wingers are there right now. We have
Wait, but that doesn't make any sense, man. Why? We have so many wingers.
Yeah.
But we have so many wingers. Moore going on loan makes sense because the kids will have more game time. We have 3 centre backs. Why would you be sending Vuskovic back go on loan? How does that make any sense?
Why pay for defender? Why buy defender when Vuskovic is there who can step in?
John, you tell me how it makes sense that Mikey Moore's gone out on loan when we've got shit on the wings.
We got more experienced wingers than Moore. Moore needs game time to go and play. How much chance of Moore getting game time with so many wingers that we've got right now? What is the chance of him to get play time? Vuskovic will get play time because we only have 3 proper centre backs. Okay.
I was going to say,
We've got Degusin.
Dragushin is shit, man. Why we want Dragushin in there? He doesn't even play for us. He's not even doesn't appear there. What's the point of him? Vuskovic is much more of a player than this guy. Dragushin is the one that should go on loan, not Vuskovic.
What I will say is, I do understand the point, of Mikey Moore going out on loan. Is Uda Bartel any better than him? I think you go back to last season, I would argue Mikey Moore had more of an impact on that Europa League run and in general on the campaign than what some of them youngsters did, and they had more game time then. And I think that's where I do think Rhino has a point. And Rhino, don't get used to it, because this is the first time I ever sort of, jumped to your defense in this regard. But I do make that argument. And, you look at, for instance, you go into the midfield, right? We're sitting here screaming for a number 10. What did Donnelly do for the under-21s when they had that unbelievable campaign? Played that number 10. Like Kevin De Bruyne, when they put him at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, against Man City on the under-21s, ripped them apart as well. And we're sitting here looking for a number 10, taking a gamble on El Canus and people like that. I'm absolutely fed up with it. And Tottenham do have a history of players, young players that we've paid for. They will get more of an opportunity than some of the guys we're producing because we haven't spent money on them. And I would argue, given Mikey Moore the proper opportunity, I think he would have more of an impact than an Odegaard, than a Tell on this season. You look at Liverpool the other night, about the 16-year-old kid off the bench, he went and won the game. Don't forget, Mikey Moore against Eze, was it Eze Alkmaar in the group stage? He took the game to them. We went and won that game. We don't win that. We don't finish in the top half of the and get out. He had a massive impact, and that's where I do understand Ryan's point. However, when it comes to Mikey Moore, I do think a loan move, full season of football behind him, getting used to that physicality, them challenges coming in on him every week, I do think will toughen the kid up and ultimately make him a better player on his return, just like I thought he'd done with Jamie Donnelly with his loan move. However, with Vuskovic, I look at the guy. It's not like you need to send him out to get physically ready. I mean, he physically at 14, he was dominating the Croatian league. You know, at 16, he dominated the Polish league. At 17 and 18, he's physically dominated the Belgian league. So for me, it's not like you need to send him out to get physically ready. You know, I think there's a ready-made player there, and I'm just not sure why we're sending him out. I do think there is use for someone like Vuskovic over the course of this season. That's where I'm at with it.
I just see he's also had like actual game time, like Vuskovic. Like he's had a lot of loans. Like at this point, maybe one more loan, you know, could be the final one. But it just seems like he has had that time away to develop, whereas some of the other youngsters technically haven't. You know, they kind of only know the life of Spurs, whereas Vuskovic, you know, probably forgets he's even a Spurs player sometimes. So I don't know. It just that's the part that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And like Jerome's point, we seriously only have, if I'm not mistaken, he's right. We only have 3 fit available center backs. Like, why are we loaning out Vuskovic and then having Ben Davies cover left back and center back? It just doesn't.
Also, would you not make the point that Vuskovic is more ready than someone like Takai, considering he's up to speed with European football and stuff?
I think Jack's point just then is the point. A bit beyond any, you can ignore everything else, right? And it's where I land on players like Donnelly. And quite frankly, I agree with Ryan on Mikey Moore as well. I don't think he should have been loaned out. I think, you know, where I stand on our academy players, but more of an argument on Donnelly and certainly Vuskovic is these academy players. Anyone who's saying they need to go out on loan so they can do this, nobody can prove to me that that has an outcome, right? There is no evidence that sending our players out on loan ends up with us selling them for good money, which is one outcome, right? Or them becoming first-team players. The player that everybody always talks about is Kane. He failed every single loan he went at, and then he only made it because Sherwood took a punt on him. Sherwood believed on him at our club. So with Vuskovic, the number one point is what benefits our club the most? And right here, right now, with the fact that they're even talking about signing a centre-back, why bother signing a centre-back? Remember, not just for Christmas, for 5 or 6 years. Yeah? For 5 or 6 years. So why sign a centre-back? Just give, the kid will get, the 18, 19-year-old, however old he is, he'll get 1,000 minutes in our squad, either in Premier League games against bottom table teams or domestic cup games, helping out the centre backs, making sure that Van der Ven, Danzo, Dragusin, if he ever comes back, Romero aren't overplayed. And you know what? He'll get the Premier League time, and he'll support our team without us going and spending another thing.
Can I ask a question to everybody out there? Because, you know, I see it in the chat there, and people's right. You know, Arteta gave Dauman a chance at the weekend. He's also given Nwaneri a chance. He's also given Lewis Miley Skelly a chance. Slot brought off that youngster at the week against Newcastle Monday Night Rio. He went and scored a winner. Man City are producing some of their own youngsters in terms of Rico Lewis and stuff. I want to ask a question. Are managers too scared at Tottenham Hotspur to give youngsters a chance, given how the demands that is expected of them straight off the bat? And that's why we're continuously seeing a lot of these guys loaned out, because you look at other clubs, like, you know, people go, you can't do it at this level. Well, I'm sorry, if Man City can do it and pick up the trophies they have, you know, they brought through Phil Foden and everything else. There's no reason why Tottenham can't. If Arsenal are producing their own, you know, look at Saka and that as well. There's no reason why Tottenham can't. Liverpool do it. But their fan base are more willing and more receiving, actually, to give these guys an opportunity. And they're very supportive when they get their opportunity. I'm not sure that's the case at Tottenham Hotspur. So is there a massive factor where managers are actually afraid to give them the opportunity, or they can't because of what's expected of them and the demands of the fan base?
Yes,
So there's
Yes.
things.
100% yes. Jack, I always forget, well, it was at Hoffenheim when our youth players say we would not have won the Europa League if it was not for 3 young academy products coming onto the pitch. Was it Hoffenheim? I always say it's Elfsborg, but I think
Elfsborg.
Was it Elfsborg? Yeah, we would not have won the Europa League without them, right? And yet we don't trust them, and we never trust them.
Raymond, there are two issues. There are two issues with the club.
It goes back to 2013-14 when Sherwood was told, play Soldado because we paid 30 million for him. No, I want to play this kid here, this 21, 22-year-old kid who I've got more belief in, I've got more faith in. I think he is going to. No. You're a temporary manager. You have to do what I'm told. And Sherwood was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to maintain my integrity as the coach. Played Harry Kane, who then became a superstar, right? We haven't had anybody apart from maybe Poch who's had that integrity since.
Yeah, but can I just say something though? Yeah, right.
Go on, and then we'll let Eugene in as well.
Yeah, the reason why we have got so many kids on the bench in the first place, right, is because we haven't got the signings in. We don't need 1 or 2. We need 5 or 6 experienced men to literally show these kids how to actually perform. This is the problem. So when Eugene said earlier, that we only need 1 or 2. No, we don't. We need 5 or 6 experienced men who are on the bench and in that starting 11.
Fair. I never said 1 or 2. I said that's what I think we'll bring in, but of course we need 5 or 6. But look, to that point, I think with 2 issues. The big issue is that when we talk about Mikey Moore, in the perfect world, yes, he should stay with us and play. But my biggest problem is that as a club, we're blocking a pathway to our youth, to the academy kids. We're buying Tells, Odebirds, Archie Grays, and Bergvalls, which is cool. But then at the same time, that blocks the pathways for Mikey Moore, right? For Donnelly, for Vuskovic even, right? If we've been rumored to, we bid 70 million on Zabarny and Hincapi. So we're still buying kids while we're blocking pathways to our youngsters. So Mikey Moore has to go out on loan because we brought him Tell for 35 million or 40 million. There's no way we're not going to play him. And Odeber is there. So Mikey Moore should play for us, but he can't given how we do business. So instead of we should be relying on the kids. Now, if you compare us to the bigger clubs, right, Dave, to your question about the managers who come in, they know they'll be around for 18 months, and they have to hit the certain targets. So when we play in those games, when Frank looks at the bench and it's an important game, and he looks at Archie Gray, right? Archie Gray shouldn't be put in the position to come in and be a critical player for those, right? They should be coming in games without the pressure on them, and they should be playing with senior pros. For example, when a kid plays for Liverpool, he plays with Van Dijk, with Salah, right? They don't just put all the kids and say, "Hey, good luck." When we do it, we have to play Archie Gray at center back, right, with like other youngsters, and that's actually, I think that's negative. So
I think you make an absolute great point now. I think it's a fair point to make. And there's a couple of comments here that are going to sort of back you up in that regard. I just want to add this one in from Mary W. earlier on. She says, management and owners on holiday for weeks at the beginning of the transfer window. I mean, that's also a huge problem, right? Big up, Mary. Good to see you. We've got Alex Minchin here. I think I got your last name right. Big up, Alex. I think this is a great point. Liverpool and Arsenal have a much higher win rate percentage and finish games off quickly. They can afford to test their youngsters and give them the minutes without sort of the pressure behind, the minutes, which I think is an absolute fair point. And good beats entertainment. Big up. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Hopefully the brothers keeping well as well. Just think the problem is because we keep sacking managers, they don't see enough of the young players over the years to see the growth, which I actually think is another contributing factor as well. So that's an absolute fair point to make. Fair play, guys. Absolutely great points. Jerome, do you want to have your say? And then Rhino was rudely wagging his finger, so we'll go back to him after.
No, let's. I want to hear what Rhino wants to say first.
Okay, fair enough. Go on, Rhino.
Because he was doing that. He was distracting me the whole time by doing this. So I want to know what he's saying.
Rhino. Go.
Well, look,
I'm ready for you.
Right, it's just like when it comes to the kids, right, having Tell, get the. I don't even want to say what I want to say there, but get the heck out of our club. He's as much use, right, as a garbage bin. that actually is on wheels. That's how bad he is. I don't want him at the club. Odebear needs to go now as well. Sod that. Get rid of them two, and we should have never have had Tell come back into
Ryan,
this club.
can you believe that we literally repeated the mistake that we made with Timo Werner? We had him for 6 months. We saw how good he was, and then we signed him again. And then we did exactly the same with Tell. We had him for 6 months. We saw that he's a good runner, good attitude, has got a long way to go until he might be a good footballer. And then we signed him for like 40 million. It's just, I just cannot believe that we did the same thing.
It's bonkers. It's just lazy. Just lazy signing. It's again, all of those are done by this fraud called Lange. He's doing all of this. He's trying to do all of those lazy signings. The same thing with Timo Werner. He did the same thing here. Lazy, easy signings that we want to do instead of telling him, "Thank you, go back to Bayern now, and we go get a proper winger."
It's like he doesn't understand before you buy, Johan Lange. It's like he tried, with Mariner, brought him back, and then with Matisse Tell does the exact same thing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and all the thing about looking at statistics and everything. So if you look at statistics for last season, 20 games, 3 goals, 1 assist. That's not very good, man. That's not a very good stat for him. So why sign him permanently? So that's just ridiculous.
Are Grimsby really beating Man
United?
Yeah, 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0. Yeah, I can see that. 2-0.
Well,
guys,
I'm not going to be funny.
The only thing that gets me going right now is the West Ham and United meltdowns. That's the only thing that keeps me a bit happy. Just seeing them in the mud.
Hopefully we can save ourselves from having one this year, and hopefully Frank can continue off the good start he's got us
Can
on
we
to.
just get Man United signings now that Amarim is just going to get sacked? Can they just hand us
over
Brian Mbumo? Yeah. Does Brian Mbumo maybe want to come back? Does maybe Acuna want to come to us now instead?
Well, look, guys, what we'll do is we are approaching the point where we're going to call it an evening. It's been an absolutely really good discussion tonight, guys. So I really appreciate all your time coming on here this evening and, participating in the discussion with us. I think this is a good advertisement for the fan show. So anybody that does have the memberships and that, make sure you get on in future ones and come and have a discussion with us. But before we end off, I want to go around the houses. How many players are we going to get before deadline day? And are we going to continue our unbeaten run at the start of this season at the weekend? Rhino, we'll start with you, my man. We'll also let you plug your channel.
Yeah, well, no. Can I let everyone else go first, and then I'll go last? It will just be easier.
Fair enough. We'll let Rain go first. Big up, Rain.
So I like to caveat it with how many good players are we going to get?
But that's what I mean when I say signings.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Because the harsh reality is I think what's going to happen is we're going to get desperate, and we're going to sign desperate emergency players. I think we're going to get 0 good players in. I hope that we go and get Paqueta, Lookman. These are players who absolutely will help us. These are players who are the right side of 20. Sorry, the right side of 22, have performed in top leagues in the past. And going to come in and do a job for us, but I suspect that we're going to get none past the post.
Fair. Gary Beck, just quickly, I don't know if you're trolling or whether we just see football different, but it just seems like no matter what we've said tonight, you've had the opposite opinion. But he says, tell us the natural, this is back at Rhino, and we don't want to kick Rhino off, so please, Gary. But he says, tell us the natural successor to Son. If you can't see it, you don't know what you think you know. So there you are, Gary Beck, there you are. I'm sure if we sat here and said Werner's shit, he'd tell us how wonderful he is. But anyway, we'll move on to you, Eugene. I mean, again, are we going to sign any quality players before the window's out? And are we going to continue our run, against Bournemouth this weekend?
We're going to beat Bournemouth. I think we're going to sign 1 player. I don't know how quality the player would be, but we'll bring in 1 transfer and probably 1 loan because we love loans. But my public service announcement, I'm going on record. if one of the players that we're bring in is going to be Adrian Rabiot, I might be
Oh, no.
taking a year off.
We've been trying that one for the last 10 years.
No, like I'm telling you right
Jesus.
now,
Every window.
it's like Traore. Like, but if he comes in right now, I'm not sure I can handle it. Like, I might be taking time off. So if he's one of them, or Garnacho, but at this point, but I think it's going to be one transfer and one loan. Whether the quality transfer, I'm not sure. We're going to overpay probably for a player who we won't be able to sell in 2 years. That's what we do. We'll pay big money for someone, and then we're going to struggle to sell him in 2 years.
I'm going to get my banner ready. Save Eugene, no Rabiot. For the protest.
Just shut us down.
Rabiot
just hold us as a
Let
club.
you know now, if we do sign Rabiot, I will start the stream with a public announcement to get a welfare check on Eugene. You know, and we can't end it until we've had that update to make sure Eugene's okay. But honestly, that is one that I've seen sneaking under the radar today, and I was looking at, and I was like, I mean, every window this guy gets linked to a move to Tottenham Hotspur, and then by the end of it, it's either his mother doesn't want him to make the move and all this bullshit. I'm telling you now, that is not going to happen, Eugene. So you don't need to worry about that. You can sleep.
Famous last words, Dave. I'll be back if it happens. I'll blame you.
I'll shoulder the blame. I'll shoulder the blame. Yeah, Jerome, on to you. I presume you're probably like the rest of the panel. Well, actually, no, in fairness, I think, you know, Eugene said we might get one in or a loan signing, but do you think we're going to get any done? And again, do you think we're going to beat Bournemouth this weekend at home?
For me, like the signings, I doubt we're going to get any, but I have a really bad feeling Rabiot could come in. We have this really, really bad feeling about this. This is just terrible. But anyway, moving on from the signings, I'm going to say this now. We are going on a unbeaten run until we meet like a Liverpool or something. Like the Bournemouth, we are going to beat Bournemouth. The games that we have right now, they are all winnable games. The tough ones are coming, like the more tough ones are coming after. But I think we are going to go on an unbeaten run until the tough one comes. So maybe the Arsenal one or the Liverpool one or something like that. But the games that we have right now, we are all winnable. And I am very confident if that starting 11 still fit, I'm confident we are going on an unbeaten run. So, yeah.
Oh, well, look, I hope so. I do think someone pointed out yesterday in one of our streams, you know, they said, look at the next 7 games, they're sort of winnable. And I agree. But look, we know football isn't played on paper. You know, you got to earn it on the football pitch. Let's wait and see. And then, Rhino, on to you. Again, same question I've asked the boys. And then also, Jack did put your channel in here. I'll go and get it now. And we'll get people over to subscribe.
Look, right. First of all, do I think we're going to get any quality signings? No. Do I think we're going to get any signings in? Yes. How many? Probably one loan and probably one actual buy. And I'm going to go on record here, and I think we're going to go and get El Canoes.
Fair.
And that's not a good thing.
What are we doing here?
That would be absolutely poor, that would be, because if we go and get El Canoes, I don't care what anyone says. I will not be coming on this on any fan show for the next month, Dave, if we get El Canoes in. And that's not down to you, because I would have lost my shit to the point that I cannot be asked to literally come onto any fan shows. I will just be curling up into a ball next to the 3 cats and crying for the whole month.
No, I get it. Let's wait and see. And as for Bournemouth this weekend, Ryan, I think we're going to get the win.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll even make a bold prediction here. I think it's going to be 4-5-0.
Yeah, look, I sort of made my predicted lineup today. I recorded it and that, and you know, I'm looking at that Bournemouth backline has been decimated, you know, over the course of this summer, and there is an opportunity for us to get goals out of them this weekend, Rhino. I definitely agree with that, my man. Big yourself definitely up, guys. Make sure you do get across to Rhino's channel, Rhino. I believe you said you had a stream coming out.
Yeah, I've just had a stream just come out with a family member of mine that's not long been that's been long awaited actually, because I've only just not long got to know him, and we was talking about oh god, everything to do with the post-match game of the Man City and how good I thought we were. Now,
Yeah.
I thought that was probably, and I know I'm probably just reiterating what everything you and Jacko have said, but I think we had the best game that I've seen in the last 2 years.
We were
And
solid.
I mean, PSG, that was just unfortunate. Unfortunately, we gave it away there, but the Man City game, nah, that was probably the first time I've been excited to see how we do against one of the big six clubs.
Yeah.
And I actually thought I was. Do you know what, Dave? It was that funny, yeah, right? I wasn't even hiding behind the. Oh, Jack's. I think I've annoyed Jack with my opinion there.
No, not at all, not at all. I think
But,
Jack has had a bit of problem with your streaming software this weekend.
And I was just thinking, like, you know, I wasn't even hiding behind the sofa, Dave. I was literally like sitting here comfortably, knowing that we're not playing all that high line anymore, and we've got defenders in their right position, the midfield in their right position, and we've got the wingers on their right position, and we've even got a striker in his right position. So,
well, what I would say is, I think you need to go and look at Jamie Carragher's breakdown of the Man City game and tell me we're not playing a high line, or you know, the wingers aren't, if the fullbacks still aren't pushing high, or the centre backs aren't being more aggressive and stuff.
Yeah, we did press Man City the same way.
What
We were still pushing high.
Well, the pressing was different.
But
we were still pushing. We were still pressing high. We were still pressing.
Anyway.
So,
we're not pushing up the defence right up to that halfway line, though, Dave. Right? And
go and look at the Burnley game. Go back and look at the Burnley game, and I can give you plenty of images where that defence is camped on the halfway line. Look,
yeah, we're pretty high.
I thought last year, I thought it was a bit of an agenda, but you know, the line has been a lot higher than what people thought it would be. But anyway, look, we are going to leave it here, guys. I'm not going to lie. I am in a rush to go make my dinner and sit down and enjoy Man United having their pants pulled down. Oh, Nana, what's the score? But, guys, absolutely really appreciate all the panel today. Really appreciate Jack getting the show up and getting some of the, you know, the talking points ready and stuff like that today. So, big up Jack on that. A big up to all you guys at home. Really appreciate every single one of you coming in. Really appreciate Shawnee Spurs Talk Show sending people over here, and all you guys that have stayed. If you could smash that subscribe button, help us get the push and break the 20K barrier, that would be absolutely phenomenal. A massive thank you to Ian Ferguson and Chris as well for going the extra mile, and we'll end off on Q7 here. Everyone get your Google search ready. That's all I'm saying, as we ain't getting no one of note, lol. Well, look, I believe Danny Rose is selling classes on how to be able to, you know, get all the information you need on Google for the latest signings coming in. So make sure you avail of them. Playing Levy at his own game, Danny Rose. But guys, go and have a good evening. We'll see you back here with Billy T tomorrow night, you know, for another discussion around the Champions League draw, the protest coming up at the weekend, and all that good stuff. And we also have predicted lineup, pre-match build-up, watch along coming your way. Guys, have a good evening. See you back here tomorrow. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Get the signings done, please.